Okay, today we'll be discussing anesthesia, hypnotics, and analgesia. When I was studying this, it was very difficult for me to understand, so I decided to put all three of them together in this kind of table to compare them. That way, it will be much more simple. We know in our body we have our brain and then we have our body itself. So these are the two components that will be involved in discussing anesthesia, hypnotics, and analgesia. With anesthesia, we apply a drug. Okay, sorry. This injection is really long. We apply a drug, right? This is the drug in the injection. We apply a drug, and that drug, it goes to the part of the part that we want to inhibit, and it blocks it. So therefore, it prevents pain signaling from that part of the body, and also it prevents pain signaling from that part of the body by inhibiting that part of the brain that senses this pain signaling. Okay, some anesthesias can also inhibit the entire signaling of the entire body by inhibiting all parts of the brain. So what I'm trying to say is this: if this is my shoulder right here, we have a pain track going up here, and let's say this is the area we feel the pain. So that anesthesia will inhibit this area here, therefore we can't feel this pain. But some anesthesia, such as the inhalation anesthesias, we apply a nebulizer over our face. So this is our nebulizer where air comes in. We apply the nebulizer in our face, and then this gas diffuses across our alveolar membrane, and it goes to the entire brain, where it inhibits all the signaling of the brain. Therefore, our entire body cannot feel anything. So it depends on the anesthesia you use, but just remember that anesthesia works by inhibiting the mind or the brain, and it inhibits the body. Okay, hypnotics is so in anesthesia there is loss of consciousness. Hypnotics, what happens, we only inhibit our mind, so we zone out in a sense, but our body is still present. So if somebody was hypnotized, their mind will be out, but their body, if you were to touch them, they will still feel it. Okay, but if anesthesia, they will be zoned out, their mind will be out, but if you were to touch them, they wouldn't feel it. The last one we're going to talk about is analgesia. Now, analgesia means pain, so analgesia means no pain. So what happens is that in an analgesia, we administer a drug, and the person doesn't feel pain in that area. It doesn't work by inhibiting the brain just like anesthesia. It works by inhibiting that site or the site itself. Okay, if you understand. So what I'm trying to say is that in analgesia, the person is still conscious, but they don't feel pain. In anesthesia, their body is out, so they're not conscious, and they don't feel any pain as a result. Okay. So this is basically what anesthesia, hypnotics, and analgesia's main function is. So let me just remove this guy for a moment. I think we know what that means. So let me just remove him. Okay. So anesthesias and analgesias. Let's just remove hypnotics in here for a moment because we understand it. So now we're comparing anesthesia and analgesia. Okay, so we said that analgesia is used for preventing pain. Anesthesia is also used for preventing pain. But it is used for preventing pain in surgical reasons. Okay, anesthesia is also used for preventing formation of new memories. Okay, so anesthesia helps to prevent formation of new memories. Imagine being cut open and then you're awake, and then just imagine being cut open. It'll be a traumatic experience, so therefore anesthesia is also used for preventing the formation of new memories, and it's also used in surgery because it relaxes muscles. So it makes the muscles less tense, therefore it's easier to manipulate the body. Okay, so that's what anesthesias and analgesia are. They basically help prevent pain, but anesthesia is for surgical reason and analgesia is not really for surgical reasons. So now we're going to be talking about different how exactly these things work. Okay, so I'm going to first talk about analgesia, because analgesia seems to be the easiest one to explain. So imagine we have our arm. This is somebody's arm. Okay, and then the person had a trauma to the arm. Okay, so the skin broke apart. The skin broke apart right here. Right here, the skin broke apart. So in our skin, we have cells, right? Let me just get another color. If we were to zoom in that area, were to magnify it, we will see that we have cells. Okay, we have cells like this. So once those cells are destroyed, such as using a knife or a prickle or something to penetrate this person's skin, once the cells are destroyed, they will release inflammatory mediators. And the first inflammatory mediator is arachidonic acid. Arachidonic acid. Okay, now arachidonic acid is found in the cell's membrane. So when those cells are destroyed, they release a lipid called arachidonic acid, and this arachidonic acid gets converted into prostaglandins. I'm not going to go in detail, and leukotrienes, right? So these prostaglandins and leukotrienes are really pain mediators. So when we get a cut or something, these are what are responsible for making us feel that pain. So the enzyme that changes arachidonic acid is COX, and the enzyme that changes arachidonic acid, the leukotriene, is LOX. Okay, so in the pain pathway we have COX and LOX. Okay, so we have two main types of analgesias. We have opioids and NSAIDs. Right? So NSAIDs are responsible for inhibiting this COX. So therefore, we don't feel pain. NSAIDs include things like our aspirin, okay, and opioids. What opioids do is that, let me just get a picture here. Okay. This is our opioid. What happened? Okay, so this is opioid. So in here we have an opioid receptor. So when we feel, or when something penetrates our skin and we release those prostaglandins and substance P and whatever, they're gonna bind to these pain receptors, and then it's going to propagate an action potential and it's going to be received by our brain as feeling pain. So what opioid receptors do, opioid receptors are all G-coupled protein receptors that sit right here on the neuron, and then when they receive an action potential, they inhibit it. So opioids include things like morphine and meperidine and pentazocine. So these are opioids. So in analgesia we have two types, opioids and NSAIDs. NSAIDs directly inhibit the mediators, and opioids inhibit the transmission of the pain signaling, okay, by binding to the opioid receptor, which are all G-coupled inhibitory receptors. Okay, so now we're going to talk about anesthesia, because let me just remove this. Okay, so with anesthesia, we said that anesthesia is used for the same thing, pain, but it's used for pain in surgical reasons, and it's used in pain in surgery for relaxation of the muscles and preventing formation of new memories. So with anesthesia, we said that we can have two types of anesthesias. We can have We can have the general anesthesia, or we can have the localized anesthesia. So with the localized anesthesia, what happens is that you just inhibit one nerve or one spinal nerve here, so the person won't feel it, right? One spinal nerve, so the person won't feel it, or a group of spinal nerves, which is regional, epidural. Or with generalized anesthesia, we said that we can inhibit the entire signaling of the central nervous system. Okay, so anesthesias have the different ways of doing that. So anesthesias, they inhibit the signaling directly, and we have generalized and we have localized. Localized inhibits just a few spinal segments or one spinal nerve, whereas localized inhibits just one spinal nerve or group of spinal nerves, and generalized inhibits the entire CNS, which includes the brain and the spinal cord, so the person is unconscious, really. Okay, I hope that was helpful. And this is basically my explanation of anesthesia, analgesia, and hypnotics. And